Apple says it's willing to go all the way to the Supreme Court to fight an order demanding it create a so-called backdoor into the iPhone of one of the San Bernardino shooters. The software would disable a feature on the phone that erases all its content after too many incorrect attempts to guess the password. Apple CEO Tim Cook called the order an unprecedented step which threatens the security of customers. Paula Reid is our CBS News justice reporter, and Ulanoff is the chief correspondent and editor-at-large at Mashable. They're joining me now to talk about this. Paula, let's just start off with a very simple question. You know, Apple says it has complied in the past with search warrants, data requests, but this is different. How so?
This is different. This isn't just complying with a warrant. This is asking a company to write a software, a new code, to be able to override its own security system. And security is really the hallmark of Apple's whole business. So they're really asking them to do something completely unprecedented.
Lance, let me ask you, does Apple right now have a way of getting into people's locked iPhones?
End-to-end encryption says no. They don't even have your code. They have no way of getting in. But here we're kind of looking at something different, because what they're asking, what Apple's been asked to do is create software that can do a end run and a brute force hack to run over and over again, as many combinations as possible till they get the code. Everybody calls this a backdoor entrance. It's actually through the front door, because they want to get the code that opens the phone up. And the reason that Apple has to create the software is that there is something built in there right now, and you can see the setting in your own iPhone that says if someone tries to get in 10 times unsuccessfully and consecutively, you will lock the phone and erase the data. It will be gone. Basically, you create a brick. So this is the sort of the nuclear option that exists on phones. And that is the thing that the FBI is terrified of, because they have this device and they're afraid of destroying it. So they figure, oh, what's simple is just have Apple write software to hack their own product.
Right, right. I just want to be clear on that, because I think that's an important point for people to understand. This is a measure that Apple put in place to ensure the privacy and security of the user, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And there is not right now technology that exists that we know of to override that, and what the government wants is for Apple to develop that.
Right, to create the software. Now, the FBI has been pretty clear that this software will be created not just for a class of phones, not just for the iPhone 5C, but for this iPhone 5C with sort of a specific identifier, so it couldn't be used on any other phone, in theory. But my concern is that once the software is created and it's out there, not in the wild, but in the hands of two, but if for whatever reason it gets out there, or proof of concept, the hackers will be looking for it or trying to reverse engineer, figure out any way they can, because they know it can be done.
Paula, on the legal front here, you know, the government and tech companies have basically been at this impasse for a while now on how to deal with encryption of personal devices. If Apple is forced to do this, what are the potential legal ramifications here?
The Department of Justice argues that it's just this case, it's just this phone. But if Apple is forced to do this, this is the law on this issue. There are no statutes, there is no existing law, which is why this is such an interesting legal case. But whatever happens in this particular case, that is what will dictate cases going forward. So it won't just be this phone, it just won't be this particular terrorist attack, this data, it'll be all of the other requests going forward, not just from the US government, but foreign governments are also watching this very closely, and they too will make requests based on this case.
I worry about what happens if the FBI gets their way and they're able to access this phone and they find truly valuable information. What will that do to the technology industry and the kind of pressure they'll be under going forward to provide access because they think it can save lives?
Paula, let me just ask you about precedent here. Is there any kind of precedent? I mean, does the FBI have the legal standing to do this? We know what this ruling was, but in a historical context, I mean, has there ever been a similar case like this before?
Not like this, not with the FBI demanding to get a company to write software. They're relying in this case on a law that was written in the 1700s. Even the laws that are more recent were written decades ago, and they just don't contemplate current technology. And there have been some efforts, some pushes to amend those laws to make them more applicable to the situations that law enforcement find themselves in when they're trying to exercise warrants. But currently, there is no law, and that really is part of the problem here, and part of the agenda behind this case is to get this settled so law enforcement can get access to the information they need, but also Apple and those business interests so that they know the extent to which they can protect their customers and be legally protected.
Well, we know from our Jeff Pegues that CBS News has learned Apple is ready to challenge the government all the way to the Supreme Court. Paula, likelihood here, if they go ahead and appeal, how does it look for them?
They're going to take this all the way. Tim Cook is ready to fight. Director Comey is ready to fight. Whoever eventually replaces Scalia will probably have to grapple with this question. But again, there isn't a lot of law on the book. So whatever they ultimately decide will be the law of the land unless Congress takes action to amend those laws from about the mid-90s that have to do with communication technology.
Wow, it's amazing to see how far behind the law seems to be lagging when it comes to technology. Paula, Reid, and Ulanoff, thank you both so much.